is going on, RotoGrinders? It's Tuesday night. It's 7:30. What does that mean? It's another edition of Card Stock After Lock with Will Priester, Chief Justice, and Tambo talking some sports cards tonight, specifically talking some baseball cards. Will, are we excited? Are we going to do our best to keep on task and not sweat? Maybe I'm talking to myself because I'm sweating the Orlando Magic already, the game in the first quarter, but it's just the first quarter. I shouldn't get out of hand. Sports cards. That's where our mind's at today. Of course, RotoGrinders, who specialize in DFS, daily fantasy sports. We're also dabbing, sprinkling out into the world of sports cards. This is our premium show here. Well, not premium. It's free. It's free on YouTube. What up, YouTube? Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. And, hey, I'm going to be pulling some questions, some Q&A at the end of the show, whatever you guys want to ask, as far as the industry, try to keep it on as far as baseball stuff. We're going to be using the Market Movers tool here from SCI. We'll be talking about that as well. If you guys want to check it out, you can get 20% off. Use the promo code GRINDERS, GRINDERS, first payment, 20% off your first payment for the first month or for the first year, however you do it. I'm talking way too much, Chief. I'm just here to ask questions. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I love this show. One of my favorites of the week. Hopefully people can continue to join us and get away from sweating the Orlando Magic. I'm pumped about this show. I think it's something that obviously I'm passionate about. We were talking about, buying into baseball, probably over a month ago now. So I'm definitely excited to kind of see how the market has turned, see where we've gone here recently. Should be a fun show, man. I'm pumped.
Hey, give your spiel, by the way, because I know you're big on, and like you've touched on this in the previous shows, but it's worth touching about now because it's not baseball season right now. Maybe people aren't excited about playing or buying up cards for Nolan Arenado because you can't watch Nolan Arenado play, but you get a bit of a discount for that reason, correct?
Well, yes and no. So what I've found right now, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, Dean. Oh. But Nolan Arenado has been going up. And we'll get to that throughout the show. But I feel like, and I'll kick this over to Tambo as well. I think maybe the field is catching up. They're not waiting as long to start getting into baseball. Obviously, we know, spring training is right around the corner. So I think people are really excited about trying to get their edge and get in now before it's too late. And I think that's what we're seeing in certain card prices across the industry. I'm not saying it's everyone, but certain players have definitely begun to trend up over the past 30 days.
What up, Tambo? Did not introduce you, so let's introduce you. Give your thoughts on that by all means. Have you noticed that as far as buying baseball cards? Again, spring training hasn't even started just yet, but theoretically right around the corner, assuming it's all good to go as far as the season, which is still, it's not worth getting into that. If we're going to assume the season to be played out at a normal time, yada, yada. But your buying experience so far as buying baseball cards, what's it been like?
Yeah, my card collection hopes that the season plays out. Let me explain that right quick. I got a lot of these cards sitting here, so I'm definitely hoping the season plays out. I think it's a couple things, Dean. I think one is, to what Chief alluded to there is a lot of people are getting into it now. And so with all the information like this show and others that are out there, people are starting to get into the things as far as cyclical goes. So it is a little bit late. I always joke about it takes so long to get to Canada. I've got some cards that are just starting to show up now, which is plenty of time. And that's sort of how I like buying them, right? Get them in hand now and go from there and have them for the season. But I think the other thing too, and Will, you can maybe speak to this, but the MJ Fleer is trickling down to, I think, every single area of cards right now. So it makes LeBron's prices go up. It makes all the people start going after Griffey's, Derek Jeters, all these different guys. And maybe they're not where they should be yet, but I'm seeing more Crosby buys in hockey. I'm seeing more of in every sport, everyone's moving to these GOATs and away from, some of these young guns or, maybe there's no patience. Maybe that's what it is, right? This new younger age is they're just not into the patience factor of waiting out a Luka or waiting out a Zion and all these ones and sitting on them. And we're talking baseball here. I'm just giving the same example, but what's your thoughts on that with the MJ Fleers going off at $738K and how that trickles out into other sports?
Well, I mean, I'm with you, man. So the first thing is we talked about the fact that the car market's booming, right? And I think people want to get in ahead of the game. Here's my thoughts around the MJ purchase, right? And I am going to be writing an article about baseball this week, but I'm going to get one out specifically about MJ. Wrote one about Kobe last week for the car start. We all know about that. But here's my point. If someone's paying $738,000 roughly for an MJ PSA 10, what do you think is going to sell for later, right? I don't think somebody's buying that to say, I'm just going to hold on and it's going to be with me until I die. I think they're forecasting something, or they're seeing that, hey, we may be heading in a direction that this could be $1 million card, a $2 million card. Like, so I think that's the direction the Fleer is going in. The other thing too is obviously that card is graded and it's a tough 10. Like if you've got one right now and you can send it in, I can almost guarantee you're not getting a 10. I mean, at this point, I would say it's almost impossible to have a 10 just laying around, even if it came fresh out of a pack. Like, so I think that's kind of where we're headed with some of these vintage cards. I think people are trying to get in on them now. The thing is, I think it was a gosh, man, I can't remember. There was a card that sold for about $2 million a couple of weeks ago. Maybe it was a baseball card. I can't remember who it was. I can't remember if it was the T206. And God, I feel so bad because I'm in this industry and I can't see it in my head. But that card sold for big time cash, right? Big time cash. Well, in my opinion, what's the next big time card that could really push the envelope? You got to think it's Jordan, one of the most impactful, influential athletes of our time. Like Jordan spans from my parents, maybe some of your grandparents, and to my kids, possibly their kids. Why? Well, a lot of people didn't see him play, but they're wearing his shoes. He's got a documentary that came out around COVID, so it kind of captivated the sports world in general. So I think Jordan's cards are going to really push here down the line. And you haven't just seen it in his rookie card. You've seen it in all his cards, right? All of them are starting to really climb. And I think that just shows that the card market is where we want it to be. And I think it's going to keep trending up.
So you think there's a domino effect because of like how high that Jordan card is? And obviously nobody's Jordan. Like Jordan is Jordan kind of in the world of his own, essentially, as far as, popularity in the market world and all that. But what is it? A rising tide rises all boats. I didn't say that correctly, but you know what I'm talking about. Like if Jordan's doing well, everybody else just by proxy basically gets the bump as well too, and that should just raise the market. Is that your theory there, Tambo?
Well, yeah, you just said it. You said it wrong, but I'll say it wrong too and relate it to cards. A rising Jordan or a rising tide rises all goats. Forget boats. And what's happening is all of these good players. It's exactly what's happening.
Oh,
everybody's.
Tambo, we got a coin. That's the coin phrase. Rising tide raises all goats. My goodness.
That's what it is. So it's simple though. It's like I said, that's sort of where I'm wondering that. I feel good because that's sort of the cards you guys know that I'm into. And I was already feeling that way, not just from a safety perspective, but more so just thoughts of what can go up the fastest. And we saw it, like, the LeBron Topps Chrome, I think guys had it at, 22,000. And then it was up to, at the Dallas Card Show, I was watching a YouTube video the other night. A guy was buying it at 23 or 27. I can't remember the number he picked it up at. And then all of a sudden, I'm watching this video just 5 days later, 3 days later. This was over the weekend, last weekend. So it's only Tuesday now. I'm watching this last night. It's literally 2 days later and it's up on eBay for 43,000. Doesn't mean that's what they're going to get. That's the obvious, but I'm just saying there was one available on eBay and that was the price it was at. So my point is more of how quickly these can rise. That's the question. And what's happening with it is it's bringing it on to every other sport. Mike Trout, somebody posted in the chat, Nathan, the Trout rookie card PSA 10 going up. All these ones are where I feel like people are taking it to the next level as far as safety goes. But I wonder, Will, now back to, a few shows back, we talked about Miguel Andahar just as one example, how many people are leaving those behind now where there's actually a big opportunity to pick some of those up, get out there, make some big money with these cards, flip them for double, triple, maybe more early in the season or once they have themselves some good games, because you mentioned the Arenado thing. Not that he's not good. He's great. I'm just saying, but the trade is what sparks that pickup, right? If everyone was anticipating it, everyone would have had that card in advance and not maybe picked it up at this higher price level that it's at right now. So maybe you can segue in with that, but that's just sort of my thoughts is what I see going on.
Man, let's segue. Dean, you got anything before we touch on this Arenado? Because this was really interesting to me as I was going through market movers this week. Dean, before I head in that, you got anything extra?
Yeah, I got a couple things. I want to tell the chat, like, this is a free-flowing conversation. We want you guys to participate. And of course, I know we know a lot of you guys watch out in the replay, and of course, it's too late to ask questions. But hey, if we see something interesting pop up in chat, we're going to ask it. We're going to talk about it. It is baseball-centric, where we can possibly go off the reservation a little bit. And speaking of that, Tambo, I'm curious. We talked about this on the previous shows, and I have no idea. The Tiger Woods documentary, the Jordan documentary bumped it up. It was really well received. How was the Tiger documentary received, and has it reflected in some way as far as this card market?
It was certainly a mixed market as far as how the actual documentary was received from players, fans, reporters, media, etc. Because obviously Tiger didn't have his hands involved, and so that can cast a negative shadow across. But I think in the end, I loved it personally as a golf fan, because the fact of it was raw, it was real, as for things you just wouldn't get to see, some behind the scenes footage with his parents, things like that you might have been able to pluck or pull from somewhere, but not everybody could just get access to it. So I like that. As far as the cards went, I think it opened up this will be a topic probably, Will, for a different show, but just what I've talked about a little bit in the past, and you guys have heard about it and mixed in. And I even talked with Will pre-show. I said, what's the pop report on that? And I think it's, again, like people are getting more privy to the cyclical stuff and picking up baseball before baseball, picking up hockey before hockey, all of these factors. I think Pop Report is not only becoming bigger, but going to become even bigger than what it is right now. I think certain people have caught on to it, and it seems so, from a common sense perspective, almost like second nature. Like, why would you not be looking at Pop Report? And all that to say, Dean, the cards took a huge spike in advance, almost like this cyclical stuff. People got in and said, oh, if the documentary's coming out next week, I need to get on this stuff. We saw the prices rise incrementally, huge. And then there was a huge dip. And the reason that is because guess how many Tiger Woods PSA 10s there are? And then guess how many hit the shelves. As far as shelves in this space, it's the marketplaces. So eBay, all the spaces around there that you can go sell cards on, they all hit the market at the same time, which then caused the prices to go down. Now they're still worth more than they were going in, but it did not take off. And that's where I said the Pop Report becomes an issue in the sense of if there's, it's just classic economics, supply and demand. There's too many out there for them to be, and the demand is not enough, even with that documentary, Dean.
Yeah, that's interesting. And Arenado, let's talk about that, because I think you're gonna show it there in the Market Movers tool where you talk about as far as the SCI Sports Card Investor. You guys can get that with the promo code Grinders, 20% off. Go ahead and use it at your own leisure. I thought it was interesting, and you're going to talk about it again. Like, it spiked up, and he clearly, his numbers are going to go down, right? He's going to go from Colorado to St. Louis, which is at best, St. Louis is like a neutral ballpark, I would say, not a hitter's ballpark.
Well, you talk to Derek Carty about that.
Yeah. Well, that sounds right to me, right? I'm pretty sure it's a neutral ballpark off the dome. It's not a positive ballpark. I wouldn't say it plays about as fair as a ballpark plays these days in baseball, I would say. So his numbers are going to go down, but the asking price, well, you tell me, what happened to Arenado since he got traded to St. Louis?
Well, here's the thing, and we'll get into it. I've got the numbers, and then I'll pull up the tool. Like, this is something I kind of had like a pre-run for. So, Devin, I am going to pull the tool up here shortly. I'm not right this minute. But in terms of Arenado, I did want to talk about the two most popular, what we would call maybe modern era cards that have gone up. And it really shocked me. This one caught me by surprise. But Nolan Arenado, in terms of price percentage increase, right? Price percentage increase is up 54.1% the past 7 days, 81.8% within the past 30 days. So, and I know a lot of that has to do with the trade. So it's not necessarily that his card prices are expensive. I am going to pull Arenado up since we're talking about him, but it's just the news has really caused the price to increase. So just keep that in mind. Arenado, a guy up 54.1% in 7 days, 81.8%. And then Dominguez, and this was the guy that was kind of hot last year. Everybody wanted to kind of get ahead of him. Hot prospect, thought we were going to get a minor league season and a guy that maybe we thought would, kind of graduate, through the A ranks and finally kind of hit the big stage, but that didn't come to fruition. But Dominguez, he's up 22% in the past 7 days, 58.7% in the past 30 days. So those are the two hottest cards for baseball in terms of percentage price increase. And this is something, Dean, and I'm going to tie this into what Tambo was talking about, right? And I think this is very interesting. We talked about the fact that Jordan was going up, right? Tiger, we're going to consider Tiger an icon, older card, early 2000s, but not like something recent like a Prism or an Optic. His cards are going up. What if I told you the number one baseball card in terms of percentage price increase was actually Derek Jeter? His tops base rookie card is up 170% in the past 30 days. Derek Jeter, number one. I think it's just because there's been a vintage surge, Dean, a vintage surge. Ken Griffey Jr. is the next highest card, up 131%. This is his 89 Upper Deck base, up 131% in the past 30 days, Dean. And not only that, if you go on Market Movers, if you've got the app, you can kind of see where the cards have been trending. Most of the top cards, let's say top 10 cards, Dean, were on the vintage serve. Griffey, Jeter, Michael Jordan, believe it or not, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe. Yeah. These vintage cards have been, Troy Aikman is in the bunch. Barry Sanders is in that bunch. I'm telling you, it's insane. The vintage cards have been on the rise, and that's just kind of out of some of the top 10 cards. And then we get into like Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. I know this because I've looked at the app extensively every day, so I kind of know where the cards have been falling. But it's been phenomenal, really, to see some of these vintage cards get on a run. And honestly, this is something I didn't predict. I didn't see vintage coming back so soon. Maybe Kobe's, Hall of Fame enshrinement has got something to do with some of the NBA guys. The Tiger documentary, obviously, people got ahead of that. But the vintage cards, man, it's been very exciting to kind of see how those are trending upwards.
You got a theory on that, Tambo? Because I can see why Mahomes, he's in the Super Bowl, he's in the prime of his career, working to his prime. Maybe this isn't even his prime. Maybe he's still excelling. Right. Watson, people think Watson's going to get traded and get a better situation. It's hard to think about worse situation than he's currently in. I understand that. Griffey's working with Major League Baseball. I know he's doing something with the commissioner. I don't think that's why his card's going up. It's a good brand. It's a classic name. He's a legend. Same thing with Jeter. He traded Jordan Yamamoto. Nobody cares about that working with the Marlins. But what is your theory? Is there a rhyme or reason why are some of these guys just sought after? They can't do anything else in the field. The back of their card is the back of their card, and that's that.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it, though. That's sort of the reason that ties into it, right? So if you got you look at, what some of the news and folks that are out there pushing things and talking about things that have much bigger followings than us that are going on and talking about it, is that sort of the point. We've heard the joke that Charizard can't tear his ACL. So that maybe you buy a Pokemon card, because that versus if you got Luka cards, Luka is destined. And Gary Vee said that, and I've heard others, take renditions on it. But if you look at it, that was, some stuff that's being pushed out there that makes some sense in that. Now in sports, the way they're applying it is nothing that, even with Tiger, they said it, he already did his bad stuff. That's what the documentary was about, but he can't really change much. He can, it's unfortunate to say this, but he could pass away. He can retire. He can win another major. He can win tournaments. He can go to the Hall of Fame. There's only so many things that can happen. And guess what? They all boost the value. So that's sort of the idea with the Kobe factor. He's already an icon, a legend in our hearts across the world. Him passing away, R.I.P. Kobe, was very sad, but that's not the only reason why. Now people are looking at it from the Hall of Fame enshrinement, the documentary speculation about his documentary. They said that he was followed, I believe it was 06. It might have been that they said he had the cameras with him, just like Jordan, where they were just following him around. So there's speculation on that. But again, these guys can't make mistakes and go backwards. We had a scare earlier in the season, a guy I'm quite high on, actually, John Morant. I know it's a baseball show, but I'm trying to relate this. That ankle injury was very scary, right? That looked like it could have been completely broke. We could have had a situation where we were losing him for quite some time. And the challenge is then you go look at what your inventory is, quote unquote, on this guy, and you say, holy smokes, I got all these John Morant cards that I was expecting to go up. And then it starts to scare you a little and say, oh, what if he's not that? What if it's another Derrick Rose? What if all that? Now you're sitting on all these cards that are going to, you're going to be caught holding the bag, as they say, versus you can't really have that issue with some of these other GOATs or these great guys that have done so much already in their sport. So I will say one last thing with it, and I'll let Will comment on it, is that if you've got these guys in your sights, that's great. You still have to make some calls, though. I'll give you a quick example. You mentioned Mahomes. I'll circle it back and come full circle. Full circle is Mahomes is likely to go up. If he wins the Super Bowl, there's going to be another spike in his cards right here, of course, especially MVP and all that. But I'll tell you what, Dean, the last time I would be buying his card, if it's me, is when he wins the Super Bowl. If he wins the Super Bowl, I don't even know he's going to win it. My point is, I would not buy it. And I'll tell you this right now and why. Right after he wins the Super Bowl, because it'll be the highest spike you'll see. It'll be reminiscent of the Luka Doncic base rookie cards that flew up the board by almost $500 when he hit that game winner in the playoffs. The first sort of big Luka playoff moment. The cards have never sniffed that since. They're actually much further down the board. You can still pick them up for cheap. And I'm not saying don't go buy them or you should go buy them right now. I'm just saying that's where you don't want to be buying at the peak, because we know when the Super Bowl ends and the dust settles and the confetti's all cleaned up, football goes to bed for quite some time. I'm not saying you might not get the Mahomes prices for what you will right now, but you'll get them cheaper if you just chill out for like a month after that or 2 months after. And that's if he even wins. So I would say that you can look for buying and selling opportunities there. and just be careful with what you're doing with your cards at that point.
Well, I assume we'll do a showdown down the road as far as football guys you like in the off season. We'll put that conversation on layaway.
Yes.
As far as the upcoming baseball season, I'm going to fire some guys your way and on the fly. Hopefully I don't throw you off or anything. But
we're good. We're good. Let's do it.
Staying in the conversation as far as Nolan Arenado and guys that are changing teams, I think a good place to start with George Springer coming from the Astros and the Cards for the Astros. They generally take a hit with the sort of their PR and as far as all the stuff that came out with how they may or may not have won a tainted championship. Now he's away from Houston. He's in Toronto. Shout out Canada. Is that your team? I know you're Vancouver. I think you're Vancouver, which is way far away from Toronto. It's a big country.
Close. I'm in Alberta, but yeah, we cheer for the Jays up here, man. That's the only squad we got. And we cheer for the Raptors too, but I always pick my own teams. I was always a Seattle Mariners fan. I'm a big Griffey guy, so love that. And then, you know, for basketball, it was always the Lakers, and for football, it was always the Ravens. So I always pick my own teams, but I got to give love to the Canadian teams too, Dean. So seeing Springer come across, I'm interested to see these prices here that Will's pulling up. But, you know, interesting news. I think it does chime to me. You know, to me, it chimes in as sort of one of these things where you just got to be a little bit careful with this as well, because right now, the way the industry works is they take almost it as if any news is good news, but that's not always the case. And I used football for this earlier in the season when we talked about Joe Burrow. The benefit for him he had going before the injury was Rookie of the Year. I am not interested, just me personally, but I'm not interested in Joe Burrow cards because I don't see the upside in cards is championships, MVPs, Rookie of the Years, things like that can go with it. That's the card value. I don't see where that happens with that, because how do the Bengals do anything? They need to pick up an O-line first. He needs to be healthy coming back to next. And I'm just using examples that everybody can relate to. In baseball, this is an example.
Is he cheaper now, by the way? Not to cut you off, but is he cheaper now?
Yeah, definitely cheaper. Yeah, definitely cheaper. And so again, some want to buy right now because of that. And again, you'd be getting a good price. You might be able to flip it and make some money still. But what I'm saying is, what is that upside? And that's where you got to make the decision of what your bankroll, how you want to utilize it, go out and what your strategy is as far as buying goes. But in baseball, and back to the topic here, like you mentioned, Dean, right away, what the hell with Arenado? It does see St. Louis make his situation that much better. Does he become that much more valuable? Is he going to be the MVP? Are they going to win the championship? All of these factors would matter more for me in the cards, yet you saw these prices skyrocket through the roof, and you're saying maybe it could be a worse situation for all we know, right? That's what's funny about it, and that's what you got to be a little bit careful with when going out and just buying anything that's hot.
Better team, but like his numbers will take a hit, but better chance at winning a title. I guess you can kind of say it that way. But I don't think of St. Louis as like a top 5 team. I haven't looked at the Vegas odds, but off the top of the head, I don't think they're top 5. But they got a shot. Sure, why not? They're willing to spend money when they need to. What do you have for us, Will? I assume you pulled it up now. Springer, has he made a move since his signing? 6 years, 150 in Toronto?
Yeah, man, I had it pulled up like 5 minutes ago. Just messing with you, but yeah, George Springer. I mean, he has increased here, and I'm kind of showing the chart now. Back in December, his Topps Chrome update base sold for $79.99. He had a little dip like right at the end of December. Had another one sell for $40. And I gotta assume this is just because when a player's not hot, you're gonna have a whole lot of non-sales. And then, of course, in January, his PSA 10 Topps Chrome update sold for $85. His PSA 10 Topps update sold for $69, which was up 55%. He had another big spike. One sold for $115, and then the last sale sold for $103.33. So that's kind of where we ended at in terms of sales. And then his last PSA 10 Topps update base sold for $61.05. Now it took a spike, and I'm assuming this spike is right around when everybody heard about the trade. It was up to about $98, and it's back down to last sale was $61.05. Still up 35%, which is good. The cool thing about this Springer, though, the Topps Chrome update only has a pop of 73 on the PSA 10, which is very interesting. The thing is, how popular is George Springer? I don't consider him to be like a face of the league, like let's go with Harper or Trout. Yeah. So that's kind of where you have to kind of think about things. Springer, I think, is a guy you definitely flip. I don't feel like he's a guy you hold on to long term. While we're on that, this is a guy I'm interested in looking at because I haven't pulled him up recently. I just want to see where Aaron Judge is at because he was a guy that I think we feel like at some point may have been a face of the league. Now, he's been getting hurt a little bit, having to sit out, a few games throughout the year. But I do want to see it where he's at. I'm going to pull up his tops. and Topps Chrome, just his regular. And then I think I'm also going to pull up his Bowman Chrome and just kind of see where he is. And I'll just kind of take the base on all of them, not getting into the refractor category, just regular base. And let's see where he is, because I think this is important when you're trying to, chart, hey, who do I want to invest in for the season? This is a guy that we know for sure is going to hit home runs, right? And that's the name of the game in baseball. We want home runs. We want the long ball. We want these moonshots. Well, as we can see, right now looks like he's going up his Bowman Chrome, which is in the blue here. Got a pop of 1,136 cards. Back in November, you could get one for $45, which, God, I'm kicking myself because I feel like I should have been all over that because I was kind of on baseball anyway. And it took a little dip there. Another one sold for $21.50. God, Lee, man. I mean, somebody must have just wanted to get rid of that one. It got up to as much as $135 here, and that was just a little over a week ago. And then the most recent one sold for looks like $84, still up 86%. So that's kind of the name of the game now, and that's his Bowman Chrome. The Topps Chrome, or the Topps base, excuse me, which is kind of his iconic card, the one with him holding the glove up. I'm not sure if you've seen it, Dean. Probably not. That's okay. But that's going to be kind of his iconic card. The PSA 10 base back in November sold for about $76. And then the most recent sale sold for $117.50, which is up 54%. So as we can see, the field is getting sharper. Like, they're not waiting until baseball starts to invest. They're definitely starting to get in on the action early, which is what you should be doing. And if we're going to have smart investors, I think that's going to be good for our hobby. I think it's going to be fantastic. And I think, as people get smarter, we'll keep getting more creative in how we invest, right? We'll look at, different edges and different things. We can say, okay, how can I get in on this player in a different way? Speaking of that, Brennan Ruby, he's going to be on with us at the end of the month, wrote a fantastic article about Prism population reports. And that's here at RotoGrinders. It's called Cardboard Calculus. And he's going to have another article that we'll be releasing on tomorrow. But let me tell you something, man. If you can get on this ride with me and Brennan here with these articles, I really hope we'll help some guys. This Cardboard Calculus was just talking about how the population of just Prism in general, right, has been increasing year to year exponentially over the past 3 years. And I think that's another reason, and I'll kick it back over to Tambo, because I think we're onto something here with these pop reports. As card providers, Panini, Topps, as they start to print more cards, right, there's going to start becoming more valuable investments in the older product, right? So even if you take Prism from 2012, there's nowhere near the amount of print run as you're going to see for Prism 2019, 2020, 2021, because the hobby is taking off, and you've got status, you've got all these other extra products. And so we're kind of back in the old 90s where there's a whole lot of print runs, but the hobby is still stable. So wanted to point that out. Tambo, I'll kick it over to you if you've got anything extra. And Dean, feel free. After we do that, we'll run some more players, and let's see where we're headed for this baseball season.
Yeah, Will, can you run Arenado just while I talk here for a sec? I want to have him pulled up, but just to chime in real quick on what you just said, it does come back to that. And I think that's going to be, like you said, we already are seeing sharper investors. We are going to have to stay one step ahead. The thing that stands out to me is definitely the pop report. A couple reasons why. One, again, I'm always tying in other sports. I hate to do it. I know it's a baseball show, and I said that multiple times, but if you think about basketball, we've been getting, some flack for this Select versus Prism thing. Yet Brennan puts out this great article and shows that, and that's exactly why Select is closing the gap. If you think about paintings, and we talked about this in the past, I would much rather have some rookie cards on my desk than a nice painting on the wall. It's a better conversation piece. There's still value to it. We're seeing it completely out there and everything in the digital space, even that we're not getting into today, but in everywhere. And so there's that, but there's also the fact of, wouldn't you rather have, if there's only 5 of a painting, you want that. So if there's 1,000 of the same one, then you go to everybody's house and they all have the same painting. It's not that exciting anymore. The excitement is behind only 300 people have this, or only 500 people can have this in the whole world. And if we see some of these Prism reports going way up, that just shows to me that, again, population report is the way to be the step ahead and to stay on top of it, as long as it's within sort of brands that make sense. Obviously, there's other ways to catch on. We'll get that's a show for another day. I want to see this here now. I would say this shows me a little bit of different information than I maybe was expecting, but I was going to say, it looks like the investors and people out there right now see in Arenado that there is a chance that he can just keep going up. Because what I saw in those other reports, using a Springer as an example, many smart investors, in my opinion, took it as a great spot to sell. Like, why does his value really go up? The news is why it goes up. Why did Lucas card go up? He made a 3. Why did these things happen? Is my point, is when those situations go down, you need to be, the step ahead to me is being like, maybe he has himself a couple 3 home run games or something crazy. Let's use Springer, could have a couple big games, and maybe that's where I get a spike. But why not just do it right now? Take my money and cash out on this spike where he's in the news, he's being talked about. That might be where you have to be a step ahead of holding it, because you saw his go right back down. A trade would be a reason why we'd see these cards spike, and we're seeing it here with Arenado, but he doesn't have any dip yet. And that's where I think, Dean, back to you, you have to make some of these things. And this is why we talk on the show of DFS and sports knowledge and all these things applying. Do you think that there's a chance he could go down here when people realize, okay, maybe he can win a championship here, has a better shot of that, but is he going to be the guy that does it? Or is he going to be the main key piece if they go all that way in this long season ahead? Or is now a good time to cash out, get some of that money and move it to things like Myron mentions in the chat, maybe some Mookie Betts, maybe as the other guys were talking about some Trouts, or maybe some things that will continue to just steadily go up and keep it a little bit safer where your money's in, and you can always get out at any time and use it for some other investment opportunities. Any thoughts on that, Dean, with seeing what Arenado's card's doing and still going up here?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I'm in no way am speaking from an expert perspective, to be clear, as far as cards, but my thought is that his numbers have to take somewhat of a hit. He's still going to be a really good player. He's still going to play on the road plenty, and he's perfectly fine, but he just can't hit the same way. Of course, Field is an anomaly, obviously, and that's where he's getting half his at-bats, and you can't expect the same exact numbers, but close to. And if he's winning, St. Louis has the best sports fan, and they market themselves as the best sports fans in all the world. And maybe they're in the sports cards and they want to get to support their own players. So maybe that bumps it up to some degree as well. Like we talked about Aaron Judge, and I assume that he gets a bump just from being a Yankee. And Jason Dominguez gets a bump because he's not even 18 years old yet, Jason Dominguez. I know you mentioned him in passing there, Will. And I'm not sure, did you want to show it off? Did you want to talk about Jason Dominguez as far as how his cards have been moving? I know you mentioned Jeter and Griffey as well. Did you want to actually show that off as far as the market movers, or we're good with just kind of what we mentioned?
Yeah, I will. I want to talk about this Arenado for a second, because I think in terms of the Arenado, this is a huge deal. And look, me and Tambo have kind of been in this boat where you see a guy have a trade, you see something happen which causes the card to spike. And look, I'm with Tambo here. I was fully expecting. Now, obviously, we already know that it's up for the past 30 days. That's the information I gave us right out of the gate, right? But right, the anticipation is that, hey, the news comes out, everybody kind of rides the wave for a week or so, and then we start to see a dip. Now, one of the things is this: his Topps Chrome base PSA 10, there aren't a lot of them, right? They're only 463. So in terms of 463, they're not 463 listed on eBay for sale. That's just how many we've got that have been graded a 10, which means that, hey, there are less of these available, so less are going to be sold. So maybe people feel better about it. His 2013 Topps update is still only 3,028. They're not all listed on eBay, but even that one has still got a pretty good run on it. And so if you kind of look at this in terms of a stock market perspective, if I was reading this chart, I would say that he's probably going to take some form of a dip, but he could still get a run. If you look at this little area here, this is called a head and shoulders reverse for those of you that are into the stock market, right? And basically what that means is if I see something like this on a chart, my anticipation is that at this peak he's going to go back down, but then we'll ride the wave back up again at a later time, right? So that's kind of what you see here. This is what we call a head and shoulders reverse. And so I do think he's going to take some form of a dip, but it's looking like it's going to keep running. And he's up 163% here on the Topps update, which is incredible. So, maybe he continues to run a little bit, but I don't think it's going to sustain until the season kicks off and maybe this team starts winning some games. Tambo, I heard you.
I was going to say, guess what? If I own this card, I can promise you'd see a dip on there because I'd be selling, right now. If you look at, I get this card on January 1st at 125, and now I can sell it for 250. I know the latest is 270, but I would sell it for 250. I just doubled my money. And you and I have done this. We're doing it with Wentz. We're just waiting on that news. Watson was a guy we've been talking about in the RG Discord and things like that, and people have been bringing it up that we're waiting on already. He's spiking up, and I know I'm bringing it back to football, but it's just to show you these are the spots we're looking for, man. Like, this is great news. I'm doubling my money. I don't think Arenado is going to be someone that I'm going to hang on to and hope to wait and get to 1,000. Could it? Sure. But this is a great time to turn a profit and use that money for a bunch of other cards that we can pick up that we're talking about now as some of these cheaper guys that are going to have these big games and pop and Andahars and things like that you mentioned that you could get where you could have more opportunities to flip and double your money. The more often you do that, the more you can build your roll, the more you can put it into, grail cards or things that you want to have that you can just see go up and up and up. So yeah, the chat's asking for the bets. I like it.
I got it. Let's roll it, man. I'm pulling it up right now. 2014 Topps update, Mookie Betts. We're going to see how that's rolling. I'm just going to go with the base. I'm trying to keep it at, the bare, just the regular standard, iconic card. We got variations. Obviously, we know the variations are going to be a little bit more. Some of them are going to be hot. I'm mainly running PSA 10s. And let's see where Mookie is. I'm sure he's probably – so first of all, Mookie was already priced up anyway. But look at this run. I mean, back in November, we got him at 481. And we're looking now, we're approaching spring training. He's already at 857, Tambo. Well, 850. Still, I mean, he's pretty much already doubled in price. And that's only going to increase. We expect the Dodgers to be good every year. They've now given him a massive contract. Could be in line for another World Series. Could be in line for another Gold Glove if he has another outstanding defensive year. And this guy has already cemented himself as pretty much a substantially great player. Like, you don't expect Mookie Betts to let you down. He hits home runs. He steals bases. He's in he's got all the dynamics working for him. Yeah, I mean, he's got everything. He's got everything working for him. This card is going to continue to run. If he wins another World Series in LA, this card will be over. As a matter of fact, this card is probably going to go over $1,000 before the season is over. I would say, Tambo. Just looking at this run,
and that's what I just said. So now you go back to Arenado and Springer. I own both those cards. I sell them right now. I'm almost halfway there, just on trade news to get to this. And the reason I would still buy into this card, I'm late for sure. Trust me, I want to be in way before, but I'm saying there is so much room for this card to still go based on they just coming off winning it. He can win it again this year. He's already engulfed in the industry of being somebody who's already built his name up and done his thing. This is the type of card I'm talking about getting to where, guess what? If I had to sell it later, maybe I have to sell it, Will, halfway through the season when it's at 1,100 or 1,200. I'm still up $300-400 and I need that money to put into something else. It's sad or whatever happens. I'm just saying my point is I don't have to worry about that with this. I don't think you're really making a mistake just because you're buying it higher than it was a month ago. Yes, you should have been in. That'd be nice. But my point is more of I'd rather be buying this one at its height than I would an Arenado right now at its height. That's just my opinion.
I got a question, by the way. Let me just chime in if you don't mind. Applying what Tambo was saying before, talking about he's like, I don't want to buy Mahomes right out of the fact he wins a Super Bowl, right? I understand it's different sports, and maybe that's one of the reasons why this is a murky question. Assuming I understood you correctly, Will, Betts won a World Series, and winning a World Series and a Super Bowl akin to each other, basically. But Betts is when his price has gone up post World Series, a big chunk. Is that what I heard?
Well, he's running now because we're approaching baseball season. Like he's starting to run. He's basically riding the wave of all the other guys that people are trying to get ahead of. So he's going to be cemented as one of the greats, I think. So $800 right now is probably nothing compared to him being maybe $2,000 or $3,000 3 years later. So it depends on kind of how you want to handle that. One of the things I want to touch on is something Tambo said that I think people overlook is the fact that the higher blue chip players that you buy, you basically have more liquidity, right? So if you think about it like the stock market, and I'm not making this all about the stock market, but there are extreme similarities, right? If I buy Amazon in the trading market, I can sell Amazon at any time. Yes. There's always somebody wanting to buy Amazon. There's always someone wanting to buy Google, right? Those blue chip companies, I can get in and out of them quickly, right? Send them to the trading desk. Somebody's ready to buy, right? Mookie Betts, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, these blue chip players. And I want to talk about Patrick Mahomes too, as well. I know it's a baseball show, but I'll talk about Patrick Mahomes in a second. because you brought up something else that was fantastic, Tambo. But blue chips are high. They have high liquidity. I can get in and out quickly, right? Let's talk about Patrick Mahomes now, because something that Tambo brought up is that, hey, I might be buying while it's on the rise, but I'm still okay, right? I may not have got in on Patrick Mahomes when he was at $2,000, and now he's $5,000. But the point is this: Patrick Mahomes is going to continue to run up, even if he takes a dip in the summertime. By the time the season starts, the pendulum is going to swing the other way, right? We talked about Patrick Mahomes possibly winning a Super Bowl. If you got in on Patrick Mahomes right now at, let's say, $6,000, and Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl, you can probably flip it for $10,000 after Sunday. That's
and
how
buy it back in a month, for very similar.
Exactly.
Like maybe not all the way down. I'm saying, like, you're using the numbers. Let's do numbers: 6, 10, 8. It is what it is, but you still made money, and now you're still back in on it, and you can get it back on the rise when the season comes back around.
Right.
And you've got a card that has high liquidity, has value. They could go back and win it 3. It could go for a dynasty. Again, we're anointing them the title here. They haven't even beat Brady yet. But I'm saying that the point is, that's why I was trying to bring it up. If anyone who bought the Luka card, because they needed a 3-pointer in the playoffs to say now it's time to buy in, they paid the absolute highest premium, and they're paying for it now, and they cannot get that back for at least, who knows what. He needs to win an MVP or something to bring that card back around to get back to near where that value was at that night when he hit that 3. So if everyone wants to run out and buy a Mahomes rookie card, if they win this Sunday, you might not be dead long-term, but you could be in trouble as far as, again, maybe you're not. It's just for your own personal collection. I'm just trying to say, if you're going from an investor's standpoint, just give it a minute to chill out, let it come back down, and then there's a time you can get in. And just so you guys know, side note, I showed off a Mahomes rated rookie I bought for $1,200 a few shows ago that we were on here. I sold that this week for $2,000 profit. And that's where
you had to. I mean, you had to do it though, and I'm assuming you had at least another one sitting around. Maybe
I do have another one. Yes, but that's my thing is saying I'm looking at it as the fact of, it's not like people always talk about this, even with John Morant, who I brought up earlier, of, oh, you're panic selling, you're worried about what if he doesn't win the Super Bowl. No, I'm saying I'm giving up a little bit right now for the night that he wins the Super Bowl. If it goes up 400 or 500, okay, but that's what I'm saying. I'm staying a step ahead, because what if not, and then and they lose, it's going to bump down just as quick, and then I'm back to I'm done. Like I could go worse than what I was. So for me, it's a good little hedge spot, and then I can use that money to pick up more stuff that I'm buying around the industry right now, or things like baseball or hockey or different stuff that we're going after. So it's just an example where I'm taking the money, but who knows what I get it back in for later. I'm not that concerned about it. I want to get cashed out when it was worth something a lot more than what I paid in a very short period of time.
What if they lose, by the way? What if Casey loses? Will, how much do you think Mahomes drops? And at what point is it worth just buying? Because, like, he's not going away. He's going to have another shot next year and the year after and the year after, presumably.
Well, here's what's going to happen if they lose. First of all, he's going to have some sustainability until after that. What's going to happen is, if they lose, is you're going to see a run on Brady's cards, because Brady's cards have already been up anyway. So his Bowman rookie, I mean, it's been running. And so Brady's cards are going to be sky high that day. But here's the difference between Brady and Mahomes right now. And I know we're talking baseball, man. You guys know this is a fluid conversation. We just
we've said this too many times now. This is a card show.
Yeah, it's a card show. We have a title. We're going to talk about it. Here's the difference between Brady and Mahomes, I think, in terms of this run. Brady still has tons of room, because he's already won 6. He would be on his 7th championship, first one with the Bucks. And what if he decided, I'm done? If Brady walked off the podium and you bought that card right after, and 3 weeks later, Brady says, I'm retiring, at that point, the run is going to continue, because everybody's like, I got to get in before the Hall of Fame. So there are other things working in Brady's favor. And then you look at the run Michael Jordan is on, look at the run some of these other iconic players are on. I think Brady would still have room. To me, and you can kind of speak on this too, Tambo, and kind of give your thoughts. But to me, that's the difference between a Brady Super Bowl win and a Mahomes Super Bowl win. Now, maybe Brady still goes down in the offseason, but I think Brady, even if you get in at 10K, 12K, 50K, whatever, he's iconic. He's going to be considered the greatest of all time, just as Jordan. Get in where you can fit in with Brady. I'm not saying, pay $50,000 for his regular Bowman a rookie card. Obviously, you want the chrome if you're going to spend that kind of money. But my point is, he's going to continue to run. He's going to the Hall of Fame. Get in now, because we've seen it happen with Kobe, right? The Hall of Fame, obviously he had the tragedy, you know, God bless Kobe and his family, and Gianna and the others that were on the helicopter, which is why I wrote that article, by the way. But they're going to continue to run, and I think that's also contributing to Kobe's run. Last thing, Tambo, and then I'm going to kick it over to you, because you talked about Luka, right? And how Luka's value is baked in on making splash plays right now. That's his value. Luka does not have a real basketball resume yet. And I love Luka, but Luka hasn't won MVP, hasn't won a scoring title, hasn't won a championship. You know, he's going to an all-star game. We got to see. But as of right now, Luka's a star that's going to go to a bunch of all-star games and may not win MVP and may not win a title. He may be Charles Barkley for all we know. And that would make him outstanding. But my point is, he's got a lot of value baked into his upside and not his real accomplishments versus a Kobe, versus a Shaq, versus a D-Wade, versus a LeBron. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, back over to you, Tambo. Just wanted to kind of put a bow on that, and then we'll try to get out of here.
I'll tie it up. I think, as far as icons go, that's the factor that you're bringing up here, right? So with the Lukas and the Mahomes, we're expecting them to be icons. Kobe, LeBron, MJ, Tom Brady, these are icons. They have generations going after them. You know, my uncle is a diehard Tom Brady fan, and then I've got friends right now that are diehard, and these are 30 years apart. So that could just last even that much longer, and those icons matter for that reason. Like you said, there is reasons why they put an iconic touch on certain guys. You know, Mahomes, $500 million contract. He's got him, Kelsey, Reed, the general manager. They're all together for the next 6 years. There is an opportunity there to win 4 out of the next 6 and be the younger version of Brady, and then who knows what, maybe even exceed him. Everyone's crowning it to him. You know, you heard Tony Romo talk about it on the broadcast. You heard Tom Brady talk about he's going to get back to the game a bunch in interviews just this week alone, talking about Mahomes and speaking very highly of him. And then you look at the guys like Luka. Luka's not just the splash plays. I wouldn't say just that. I would say also to the international flavor or aspect of how much the appeal is there, which makes it, and he's young. And that's where, you know, the Jason Dominguez thing comes in, back to baseball. That's where all these factors are there. They could be the next, the Juan Soto. We didn't even talk about Soto.
My goodness, let's pull that up and then we'll roll out.
Tatis, who just got the game title, right? He's on the front of the game now. Like these guys are being, but again, back to being anointed before they've achieved. There's a difference. And that's part of the speculation and why we feel good about buying these cards. But at the same time, how long does it last if the results don't show, right? You can speculate for so long before there is going to be a bit of a dip or a drop. And that's why you said, back to what you said with Mahomes, if he doesn't win this weekend, I don't think it's going to be a tragedy, because there's a lot of time. To Dean's point earlier, there's a lot of time left. He's going to be back. It's Mahomes. It's just the fact of that does still get, you know, some people soured on it, because there is stuff where people say, now these already, you know, he dipped on another opportunity. That would have been the one we wanted. And that will cause some drop in the price, whether you like it or not.
Question here in the chat I want to get to, and then I guess we can talk about Acuna or Tatis or Soto. Pick one of those, Will. We can't stay here all night, obviously. Been here for a while. We got to show.
We want to stay all night, Dean. Devin, let us stay all night. I'm just kidding.
Devin's got things to do, man. He's got a big plans on a Tuesday night here in Nashville. By the way, you mentioned the Discord. We should mention that y'all that are watching, you can join the Discord at RotoGrinders. We have premium channels, but this Discord channel for sports card specific, it's free to my understanding, just to join the Discord. And also the articles, I believe, are free to read as well. And if they ping you guys, they can ping you guys, and I assume, at some point you'll get back to them. You'll help, and it's just a bunch of people talking sports cards, and it's a great little community there. And I've jumped in there. I don't know anything, but I learned some stuff, kind of chiming in and just seeing what's going on. Head Chopper, I know, is lurking, spending his $2 million. He's definitely one of the guys that knows what he's talking about as well from a sports card collection perspective. But this question in chat, Will, we just saw. The Hall of Fame, nobody got in this year. It's whatever, not worth getting into. Nobody got in. How has that reflected the card market? Bonds, Clemens, McGuire, I'll say Schilling. I don't want to go any further than that, but none of those guys got in. How are their cards reflective of that?
I haven't really looked at those guys yet. I mean, that's a good question.
I know Bonds has been getting a lot of talk for sure, because regardless of anything, people will say it, technically wasn't ever, he was accused. He technically was never proven, innocent until proven guilty type thing. They're wondering, it's a travesty at times that people look at it, especially real sports fans will just say like, this is just ridiculous. That regardless, lots of stuff that you don't know goes on in sports and things like that. At the end of the day, they still expect him to get there, but people are going after that because guess what? Goes back to almost that icon. Barry Bonds would be an icon in the game of baseball, like a Ken Griffey. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter, even though one's in, one's out. The point is that's where people go after it and say, listen, we're gonna still buy this guy's card, right, Dean? Because it's still a position where they're saying this still has staying power because they are an icon to a lot of people, and again, a lot of generations. My dad knows Barry Bonds very well, and he's got 20 plus years on me, right? So look, almost 30 years on me, but I know Barry Bonds just as well too. So it just depends on where they fall in that era, and that's where I'm finding the biggest value to be. Where there's more ceiling for these cards, as we talked about earlier with some of these guys. So yeah, interesting to look at some of these guys, Soto, Tatis, Acuna. I think these are the big three as far as, Dominguez could get thrown in there where people are speculating on anointing before achieving. They've done some things, but Tatis, I think, was with some of the trade news this year too. They picked up some guys over in San Diego. So that helps their cause or their case. So I think that's interesting to look at, but not a spot where I was selling. I think there's going to be some big games ahead, and he's like a Luka where there's that upside that it can get back at least something. We'll see where they're at here.
Well, here's what I did. I've got the Juan Soto. This is his Bowman Chrome. Now, obviously, he's got a tops out. I don't consider this one his iconic, but for some reason, I couldn't pull it in with the tops version. So, at any rate, and this one caught me a little off guard, I would say, which I did look at Tatis the other day. But Tatis is on an incredible run right now. I mean, he's up to 343. He's up 82.6% within the past couple months. Now, obviously, like we said, people are not going to be buying baseball in November. So that's when you need to be buying, right? But they're going to start buying now because the season's around the corner. What caught me off guard is I was really shocked to notice that Tatis is on a higher run in terms of price point versus Acuna in his Topps Chrome base, when Acuna and the Braves have already kind of gotten themselves in a spot where they could have gotten to the World Series and done something huge. So that was very interesting to me, which tells me Tatis has got a little bit more of the MLB pop factor, right, versus Acuna. Not that Acuna isn't a young stud, but Tatis seems to be a little bit more popular, and I think that a lot of that's baked into of these card prices. So we see where Acuna Jr. is at 173.80. I mean, that's still fantastic considering that back in November we could have got him for 93. Acuna, Acuna, the pop on that is 67.69 for his Topps Chrome base, 67.69, and Tatis is at 56.93. Now, obviously, this Juan Soto is a Bowman Chrome, which I didn't want to pull this, but I wanted to get his Topps version, so maybe I'll just have to run him separately. I know we got to get out of here, so I won't worry about that. But his Bowman Chrome is kind of on the rise a little bit anyway. He's up 77.1%, and we know that the season is starting. So that's kind of where we are on those three players. And then Tambo, can we go with Tambo's mail day? Because he's got some splashy baseball plays there.
Show us up, man.
We'll get out of here.
What do you have for us, Tambo?
Well, I don't know. Is it going to be up on the screen, or do I got a shot? Yeah. I got it here too, but
Devin's got it.
Okay, yeah, I got a Topps Chrome Bryce Harper hitting X Factor PSA 10. So this was, Will and I had talked back earlier in the season. I know you got some Reese coming and going and everything going on with Hoskins too there, but we just thought, Harper, all the talk of Trout, things can rise. I found an X Factor for $200. And, there's a low pop on it. Everything I like about that, it's Topps Chrome. It's a new, I like looking at every little thing. And for me, even the new PSA slab, it's not the old one or anything like that. So to me, everything was tied in a tight little bow. And I just said, look, he's got the name power. He's got the staying power. There's long-term there, everything that goes with it. And for $200, if I want to take a risk, I'm going to do it on a card like that. And like I said, this does not mean anything. Selling price is nothing. That's one of the mistakes people make. We got to look at comps and prices and around, but I'm saying because it's so limited, it's tough to tell. But what I could say is this: if I wanted to sell it today, there's only one that I could find on eBay, which is almost 800 versus the 200 I paid. That means I can go up and probably throw this up for 500-600 if I wanted to move it and triple my money basically at 600 and outsell, outbid, put my price lower than the person that's already out there selling theirs. If we're just talking one for one, I'm not selling it right now. I'm just showing it off to give an idea of why we were going after stuff like that. I always joke the same joke, but it does take a while to get here, but I'm certainly happy with the purchase. I got a National Treasures that's not up there that I just, again, these are whatever, but it's just, if you got these rare, unique cards, I know Evan in the chat mentioned earlier, just to chime in, I'm not sure he came in a little late. It certainly is the reason why the pop reports on these, Prism versus Select, using that example, back to talking hoops a little bit. But what we were saying is not that's obvious. That's definitely the reason. But the hobby boxes cost more. The cards are more rare, harder to get, less printed. You see less because of that into these PSA 10s and certain populations out there. So all we were saying earlier in the show was that will, in turn, in our opinion, make these things more valuable over time, because people are starting to realize when there's 15,000 of these certain cards out there.
And Luka does have 15,000. That's facts. Those are facts.
That's before the stuff comes back from the PSA backlog. So it's probably going to push 20. And I'm not saying there's not a market for 20,000 people. I brought it up earlier just to chime in quick on the Tiger Woods thing. Tiger base, the 2001 rookie, had the up and then the big dip because there's so many of them. But the Tiger Woods Sports Illustrated or the SP Authentic, those have went up and sort of stayed, maybe dropped a little bit, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying they took a rise because people want the card that's more rare, whether it's the right one or not, quote unquote, the, whatever you want to call it. That's all we're saying with something like that. They cost more and they have the staying power and they have the ability to go up because of that. People are looking for more rare cards, and population is the proof of that. No different than a super short print or whatever you've got with out of 5 or something like that. That's where you can see these cards really rise in value quickly, because if you're the only 1 out of 5 people with them, or in this case, you've got 300 of these courtside select versus 15,000, or let's use the other. What's the number on the silver prism? 3,000? I forget what it is for Luka, but that would be
because we've got it in an article, I think.
Yeah, my point is just, so it's like 1/10. And I'm not saying it automatically becomes better. I'm saying people will start to say, well, yeah, but there's 3,000 years. I can just go get one of those. I can't get one of these. Barely anybody has these. So that's where it's coming into play.
Yeah, man. My mail day, Devin, I'm not sure if we're running in order, if you got them all up. But listen, man, I told Tambo one day, I said, Tambo, I'm about to get on James Harden. And he was like, James Harden, don't like him. Then I told him the prices I was getting James Harden for. He said, oh, yeah, keep investing in James Harden. Look, man, James Harden doesn't have a lot of popular rookie cards, right? He really doesn't. Like, you've kind of got to go high end. He doesn't have Prism. He's got that Topps version. And I am watching one of those a gold version of that Tambo. So I'm going to get my hands on one. But this is a BCCG 10. I don't have any problem buying BCCG, especially when I can get it at the right price. So that's a 10 on that one. If you notice there, I've got a really nice Trae Young refractor. Believe it or not, this is a rookie card, but it came from the Panini National Convention VIP packs. Doesn't have the rookie card emblem, but it is a rookie. And then the same thing with Luka, right? And Tambo talked about it. He asked me earlier today when he saw this picture. He said, hey, is that the same one on the court side? I said, yeah, absolutely. Same exact image. And I told him, this is a card that I found out I wanted to start getting in some Luka. Didn't want to necessarily pay the prices he was at. And I started realizing Panini National Convention VIP, these cards are lagging right now. So I can go out right now and get these cards way less printed, because you got to be at the National Convention to get them. And I can still get a rookie card of iconic players or players that I like for a whole lot cheaper. So that's what I started doing. Obviously, this one I bought at Raw because I felt like the price was worth it. I'm going to send these in to Jeff to Jeff with his PSA submission, which is another benefit, right, of being able to get in on sportscardinvestor.com. Not only is it 20% off that first payment with the promo code Grinders, Jeff also has the grading service attached to the membership now. And not necessarily attached. You can send it in, I think, without the membership, but that's just another benefit now. Got a really cool spreadsheet, log all my cards, send it off, and then I pay after they get it back from PSA. It's fantastic. So that's just another reason that Sports Card Investor is just changing the game. But that's why I'm investing in these. And this is something I'm going to start watching long term, like investing in Panini National VIP Gold Pack cards and getting them before the field catches on. And Dean, I know we got to ride. That is it for me. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Yeah, much appreciate you guys joining us. Do hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. Let us know what you want us to talk about in future shows. Tell us here in the comment sections on YouTube. Do appreciate you guys watching us live. I know a lot of you guys don't, but if you're not watching it live, of course, we can't really interact with you guys in chat, but those that are around, do appreciate it. Thanks, Devin, for sticking around and producing the show. Thank you to Tambo. Thank you to Chief. I rarely have cards to show off, but I was just messing around and looking through some old cards at my house. And I found 80. This sounds so random, but I found an 81 Topps basketball set, and there's Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, and they're actually in pretty decent shape. Maybe I'll send these in to get graded. I don't know what they're worth. You guys can tell me. You know what? I'm going to use that 20% off promo code at SCI, and I'll figure out what they're going for these days. Get them graded, and I'm doing my best to dabble back into the market, and this could be a good first step for me. That said, thanks for watching, everybody. That was Will. That was Tambo. This was Sports Cards. I was Dean. We're out of here. Holler.